The transport shuttle touched down on the crossing with barely a whisper. Dr. Owen Fletcher gathered his medical kit and stepped onto the platform, squinting against the harsh artificial lights that illuminated the neutral station. He had been summoned here for what his commanding officer called a routine diplomatic consultation, something about examining livestock that would be traded between Earth and the Draken Empire. Simple enough work for a veterinarian who had spent 15 years treating everything from horses to the occasional alien pet. The station hummed with activity. Dozens of species moved through the corridors, conducting business, negotiating treaties, trading goods. Owen had visited the crossing twice before, but the diversity never stopped amazing him. Towering insectoids clicked past elegant humanoids. Gaseous beings floated in containment suits beside fur-covered merchants. Humanity was still new to this galactic community, still finding its place among civilizations that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. A tall figure approached him. She wore diplomatic robes marked with the Draken insignia, her scaled skin shimmering under the lights. Her eyes were sharp and calculating. Dr. Fletcher. Her voice carried the hissing accent common to her species. That's me. I am Ambassador Yenna. High King Drameth requests your presence in the throne chamber immediately. Owen frowned. I thought I was here to examine livestock. Plans have changed. Yenna's expression gave nothing away. Follow me. Do not keep the High King waiting. They walked through increasingly ornate corridors. The casual merchants and traders disappeared, replaced by armed guards and serious-looking officials. Owen noticed Yenna's posture growing more rigid with each step. Whatever awaited him. Even she seemed uncomfortable about it. The throne chamber doors opened with a deep boom. The room was massive, designed to intimidate. High King Drameth sat on a platform 20 feet above the floor, his bulk radiating power. The Draken were dragon-like creatures, though they walked upright and considered themselves far superior to the primitive dragons they had conquered on their homeworld. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species watched from elevated galleries. This was no private meeting. The human arrives. Drameth's voice boomed across the space. Laughter rippled through the galleries. Come forward, little doctor. Owen walked to the center of the chamber, refusing to show fear. He had dealt with aggressive animals his entire life. Predators could smell fear. Your species makes many claims, Drameth continued. You say you value all life. You speak of compassion and dignity for even the weakest creatures. Is this true? We try to live by those principles, yes. How convenient. Drameth gestured with one clawed hand. Then I have a gift for your species. A test of these noble values you claim. Two guards dragged something forward. At first, Owen thought it was a sack of damaged equipment. Then it moved, and his stomach dropped. It was a dragon, but nothing like the proud Draken who ruled an empire. This creature was small, barely larger than a horse. Its wings were twisted at wrong angles, clearly broken and healed incorrectly multiple times. Scars covered every inch of visible scales. One eye was clouded over. The dragon made no sound as the guards threw it onto the floor in front of Owen. This is Sorrow, Drameth said. She was born defective. Weak wings, poor constitution, no fire in her belly. Her own kind rejected her. My warriors found her and used her for target practice. She has survived, somehow, but she is worthless, a burden, a waste of resources. The galleries filled with laughter again. Owen knelt slowly beside the dragon. She flinched but lacked the strength to move away. Up close, he could see the intelligence in her remaining good eye. And the pain. Years of pain. So here is my gift to humanity, Drameth continued. You may have this broken creature. Spend your resources healing her if you wish. Prove your compassion is more than words. Or admit that some lives are indeed worthless and dispose of her mercifully. Either way, I will be entertained. Owen looked up at the king. And if I refuse, then she dies here. Now, in front of all these witnesses. Drameth leaned forward, grinning. But you won't refuse, will you, doctor? Because that would make you a liar. And humans pride themselves on their honesty. The trap was perfect. Refuse and watch an innocent creature die, proving humanity's compassion was selective. Accept, and struggle with an impossible burden while the galaxy watched and laughed. Either way, Drameth won. Owen placed his hand gently on Sorrow's scarred head. She trembled at his touch, but didn't pull away. He felt her rapid heartbeat through his palm, felt the fever burning through her damaged body, saw the infection in her wounds that had been left untreated for who knew how long. "I accept," he said quietly. Drameth laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Excellent. Let us see how long your compassion lasts, human. I will be watching with great interest." Owen ignored him. He was already assessing Sorrow's injuries, making mental lists of what she would need immediately. Fluids first, antibiotics, pain management, then a full examination to catalog every injury. "Ambassador Yenna will show you to quarters where you may keep your new pet," Drameth said. "Try not to let her die too quickly. I want to enjoy this." Yenna approached, her expression unreadable. "This way, doctor." As they prepared to leave, Owen felt Sorrow's eye watching him. Not with hope exactly. The concept seemed foreign to her, but perhaps with the faintest curiosity, as if she was wondering whether this human would be just another source of pain or something might actually be different this time. Owen lifted her as gently as he could. She weighed almost nothing, half-starved and dehydrated. "Let's get you somewhere quiet," he whispered behind them. The galleries buzzed with conversation. Bets were already being placed on how long the human would last before giving up. How long before frustration or exhaustion or simple economics made him destroy the broken dragon. The show was just beginning, and the galaxy had front-row seats to what they assumed would be humanity's inevitable failure. None of them understood what they had actually done. They had given a wounded animal to someone who had devoted his entire life to healing. They had offered a challenge to a species that had domesticated wolves and turned them into companions. They had placed something broken and suffering into the hands of creatures who saw potential where others saw only ruin. The joke, Owen thought as he carried Sorrow toward the medical bay, was going to be on them. Sorrow had learned long ago not to expect kindness. Every gentle gesture had been a prelude to pain. Every soft voice had preceded violence. So when a human carried her into a quiet room and laid her on soft padding, she waited for the trap to spring. But the human just moved away and began opening his strange carrying case. Owen worked methodically, setting up his portable equipment on a nearby table. He kept his movements slow and predictable. The dragon watched him with her one good eye, her body rigid with tension. He had seen this before in abused animals. The fear ran so deep that even breathing seemed like a risk. "I know you can understand me," he said softly, not looking directly at her. Direct eye contact often felt threatening to traumatized creatures. The translation implants work both ways. "My name is Owen. I'm going to help you, but I need to examine you first. I'll go slow. If anything hurts too much, just move away and I'll stop." Sorrow's eye narrowed. Lies. They were always lies. Owen filled a bowl with clean water and placed it near her. Then he set down a plate with some of the dried meat he kept for his patients back home. He retreated to the far corner and sat down on the floor, making himself as small and non-threatening as possible. "Take your time. No ruse." Minutes passed, then an hour. Owen checked his messages and reviewed the medical database for any information about dragon physiology. There was surprisingly little. The dragon kept their biological data closely guarded, and the primitive dragons they had conquered were considered little more than animals, not worth studying in detail. Finally, Sorrow stretched her neck toward the water. She watched Owen the entire time, ready to pull back at the slightest movement. When he stayed still, she drank. The water was cool and pure, nothing like the stagnant puddle she had learned to lap from. She drank until the bowl was empty. The meat took longer. She had been given spoiled scraps before, food that made her sick. But hunger won over caution. The meat was good, fresh. She ate slowly, her damaged jaw making chewing difficult. Owen smiled but stayed where he was. "Good. That's good." Another hour passed. Owen began talking, his voice low and steady. He told her about Earth, about his clinic, about the animals he had treated. A dog that had been hit by a car and learned to walk again. A cat that had been burned in a fire and now lived comfortably despite the scars. A horse that everyone said should be put down, but who now carried children on trail rides. Sorrow listened despite herself. The human's voice was different from others she had heard. No mockery in it, no cruelty, just talking, as if she mattered enough to talk to. The door chimed. Ambassador Yenna entered without waiting for permission. She glanced at Owen sitting on the floor, then at Sorrow huddled on the padding. Dr. Fletcher, I came to inform you that High King Drameth has installed monitoring equipment in these quarters. He wishes to document your progress. Or failure. She paused. I am required to tell you this by treaty. We cannot spy on diplomatic guests without disclosure. I assumed as much, Owen said. Doesn't matter. I'm not doing anything I need to hide. Yenna studied him for a long moment. You actually intend to help her. Of course. Why? She is nothing. Broken. Even among humans, you must have disabled animals that are put down, disposed of humanely. Owen stood slowly, careful not to startle Sorrow. We do, when they're suffering with no hope of improvement. When keeping them alive would be cruel. But that's not what this is. She's injured, malnourished, and traumatized. Those are all things that can heal. The High King expects you to fail. He expects you to realize she is more trouble than she is worth. Then the High King doesn't understand humans very well. Owen walked to his medical kit. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Yenna left without another word, but Owen caught something in her expression. Not quite sympathy, not quite respect, but something close to curiosity. He turned back to Sorrow. Okay, I need to examine you now. Check your injuries properly. It's gonna hurt, I won't lie about that. But I'll be as gentle as I can. He approached slowly, letting her see every movement. When he knelt beside her, she tensed but didn't move away. Progress. Owen started with her wings. They were a disaster. Broken in multiple places and allowed to heal wrong, creating a twisted mess of bone and membrane. He could feel the old fractures under his fingers. 3 major breaks in the left wing, 4 in the right. And those are just the obvious ones. Sorrow shuddered but held still. The human's hands were warm. They touched carefully, not grabbing or twisting. When they found a particularly painful spot, they backed off immediately. This was nothing like the rough handling she had endured before. These will need to be rebroken and set properly. Owen said, multiple surgeries. It's going to be a long process, but I think we can get you flying again. Maybe not like you're born to fly, but functional flight. Would you like that? Sorrow's eye widened. Flying. She had forgotten what it felt like. The few times she had managed to get airborne before the final breaking, the world had seemed so different, so open. She made a sound, barely a croak. Her vocal cords had been damaged too, crushed when a Draken warrior had choked her for amusement. The translator picked it up anyway. Yes. Owen smiled. Then that's what we'll work toward. He continued the examination. Cracked ribs that had healed poorly. Infected wounds that needed cleaning and antibiotics. Parasites that had been feeding on her for who knew how long. Burns on her belly from practice fire weapons. The list went on and on. Through it all, Sorrow held still. The human's earlier words kept echoing in her mind. A dog that walked again. A cat that survived fire. A horse that should have died, but didn't. If those creatures could heal, could she? I'm going to give you something for the pain now, Owen said. It'll help you sleep. When you wake up, we'll start treatment. Small steps, one day at a time. He administered the injection with practiced skill. Sorrow barely felt it. Within minutes, the constant ache that had been her companion for years began to fade. Her eye grew heavy. Rest now. Owen's voice seemed to come from far away. You're safe here. Safe. What a strange concept. Sorrow had never been safe. But as consciousness faded, she found herself believing the human's words. Not because she wanted to, but because his actions matched what he said. And in her experience, that was the rarest thing in the universe. Owen watched her fall asleep, her breathing evening out for the first time since he had met her. Somewhere in the station, High King Drameth was probably watching the monitors and laughing. Let him laugh. Owen had pulled off what others called miracles before. He would do it again. The difference this time was the audience. The galaxy would watch this healing. They would see what humans did when given something broken. They would learn what compassion actually meant, not as a pretty word in a treaty, but as day after day of patient care. Owen pulled a blanket over Sorrow and settled into a chair nearby. He would sleep here tonight, where she could see him when she woke, so she would know she hadn't been left alone. Outside, the station continued its endless cycle. But in this small room, something rare had begun. Something the cynical species of the galaxy had forgotten was possible. Trust was starting to grow in soil where only fear had existed before. 3 months after leaving the crossing, Owen stood in his converted barn and watched Sorrow take her first unassisted steps since arriving on Earth. She moved slowly, carefully, but she moved. The physical therapist who had been working with her for the past 6 weeks beamed with pride. "Look at that extension in her left rear leg," Rachel said. 2 months ago, she couldn't even put weight on it. Owen nodded, making notes on his tablet. The barn had been transformed into a recovery space unlike anything he had built before. Padded floors to prevent injury during exercises. Specialized equipment designed for a creature that would eventually fly again. Temperature controls to keep Sorrow comfortable. It had cost him most of his savings and several favors from engineer friends, but seeing Sorrow move made every credit worthwhile. Sorrow reached the water trough and drank deeply. Earth water tasted different from station water. Better. Everything about this place was different from anywhere she had been before. The sky above was blue instead of the metal gray of ship ceilings. Wind carried scents of growing things instead of recycled air, and the humans kept arriving to help her. Rachel was the third human to visit today. Before her, there had been a surgery specialist who checked the healing in Sorrow's wings. Before that, a woman who brought food and talked softly about her own recovery from an accident years ago. They came and went, each one focused on some aspect of making Sorrow better. The IT confused her. Where was their profit? What did they gain from this? "Good work today," Rachel said, patting Sorrow's shoulder. "Tomorrow we'll try the standing frames for your wings. Start building up those flight muscles." After Rachel left, Owen brought dinner. Not the medical pay Sorrow had eaten for the first few weeks, but real food. Meat and vegetables prepared specifically for her recovering system. He set it down and sat nearby, as he did every evening. "I got a message from the crossing today," he said. "Apparently the footage of your recovery is spreading through the galactic networks. Some species think I'm wasting resources. Others are curious. A few have started asking questions about their own disabled populations." Sorrow ate while he talked. She had learned Owen did this every day, sharing information about the wider universe. Sometimes it seemed important. Sometimes it seemed like he just wanted someone to talk to. High King Drameth sent a formal inquiry demanding to know when I'll give up on you. I told him to hold his breath, waiting. Owen smiled. "That's a human expression. It means never." Sorrow made a clicking sound, the closest she could come to laughter with her damaged vocal cords. She had been practicing with the communication device Owen had given her, a tablet with symbols she could press with her claws. Slow, but functional, she pressed symbols now. Drameth. Angry. "Good. Yeah." Owen agreed. "Good." The next morning brought more visitors. A group of children from the nearby farms arrived with their parents. Owen had cleared this carefully, making sure Sorrow was comfortable with the idea. She was nervous at first. Children were small and vulnerable. She could hurt them accidentally. But the young humans were fearless in that unique way children had. They approached with offerings, drawings they had made, snacks to share, questions about what it was like being a dragon that a little girl with bright red hair pointed at Sorrow's scarred scales. "Does it hurt?" Sorrow used her tablet. "Not anymore." "Good. Hurt is bad." The girl hugged her own scraped knee, clearly speaking from experience. "I fell off my bike last week. My knee hurt real bad, but my mom put medicine on it and now it's better." "Is that like you?" "Yes. Like that." The children stayed for an hour, telling Sorrow about their animals, their school, their lives. One boy showed her pictures of his dog, who only had 3 legs after being hit by a car. "But he runs faster than dogs with 4 legs," the boy said proudly. "Mom says bodies are just bodies. What matters is heart." After they left, Owen found Sorrow staring at the drawings they had given her. "You okay?" She pressed her tablet. Why? Children. Not afraid of broken dragon. Because they see you, not just your scars. Kids are good at that. Owen sat beside her. Adults forget sometimes. We get caught up in what things look like instead of what they are. Over the following weeks, the surgeries began. Owen had assembled a team of specialists, all volunteers who found the project fascinating. They rebroke Sorrow's wings and set them properly. They repaired her damaged jaw. They treated infections that had festered for years. Between surgeries, physical therapy continued. Standing frames helped Sorrow build the muscle strength she needed. Water therapy let her move without putting pressure on healing bones. The global media found the story. Reporters requested interviews. Owen refused most of them, but he allowed a documentary crew to film some of the rehabilitation. People should see this, he told Sorrow. Should understand what's possible. For months in, a small ship landed near the clinic. Ambassador Yenna stepped out, looking uncomfortable in the Earth gravity. She found Owen in the barn, watching Sorrow practice extending her wings under their own power. Ambassador, unexpected visit. High King Dramath wanted an in-person report. Yenna watched Sorrow move through her exercises. He does not believe the footage he has seen. He thinks humans are using tricks, computer effects. He's welcome to visit and see for himself. He will not set foot on a primitive world. Yenna moved closer to Sorrow. May I? Owen nodded. Yenna approached slowly, her diplomatic training evident in every careful movement. She examined Sorrow's wings, feeling the properly set bones, seeing the healthy membrane growing where torn tissue had been. This is real, she said quietly. Sorrow pressed her tablet. Oh, real. Yenna stepped back. I came to tell you that your work is causing problems in the Empire. Young Draken are questioning the old ways. They see this broken dragon healing and ask why their own weak are killed at birth. The High King is furious. Good, Owen said flatly. Maybe you should be furious. Maybe all of you should be. You do not understand our culture. Strength is survival. Weakness is death. It has always been this way. Then maybe it's time for things to change. Yenna looked like she wanted to argue, but she just shook her head. I will report what I have seen. What happens next is beyond my control. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it is worth, Dr. Fletcher, what you have done here is remarkable, even if my people refuse to admit it. After she left, Owen returned to Sorrow's side, ready to try extending both wings fully. Sorrow pressed her tablet. Ready. She spread her wings slowly. The left one extended almost completely, the membrane catching the light. The right one had farther to go, but it moved smoothly through its range of motion. No pain, no grinding bonus. Just movement that in 6 months, Owen thought, maybe 8, she would be ready to try flying. Short flights at first, just glides, but eventually real flight. He could see it in how she held herself now, the way she watched birds overhead, the hunger in her eye when wind filled the barn. That night, children from the local hospital visited, young patients dealing with their own injuries and illnesses. They sat with Sorrow and shared their fears about surgeries, about being different, about not being able to do things other kids could do. Sorrow listened, her tablet readied at a boy with braces on both legs pointed at Sorrow's wings. Will you really fly again? Yes, even though you're hurt. Because I'm hurt. Learned how to heal, how to be strong, different way. The boy thought about that. I'm learning to walk different too. With these. He tapped his braces. Maybe that's like you learning to fly different. Exactly. Like that. As the children left, one little girl hugged Sorrow's leg. You're my favorite dragon. Not because you fly. Because you keep trying. After they were gone, Owen found Sorrow staring at the door where they had exited. You okay? She pressed her tablet carefully. Found. Purpose. Not. Just. Dragon. Something. More. Yeah. Owen said softly. You really are. Outside, stars filled the Earth sky. On a dozen worlds, beings watched footage of Sorrow's progress. Some with mockery, some with curiosity, and a small but growing number with something like hope. Change was beginning one healed dragon at a time. 8 months into Sorrow's recovery, the peaceful routine shattered. Owen was in the barn, helping Sorrow with her morning exercises when his communication device buzzed with urgent priority. A massive Draken vessel had entered Earth's orbit without clearance. Diplomatic channels were screaming. Military forces were on alert. High King Drameth had come personally. By noon, the king's shuttle landed near Owen's clinic, crushing part of his fence in the process. Drameth emerged flanked by a dozen warriors, each one carrying weapons that Earth's military watched nervously through satellite feeds. Behind them, news drones swarmed like insects, broadcasting everything to the galaxy. Owen met them in his yard, deliberately casual in his work clothes. He refused to be intimidated on his own land. High King Drameth, you could have called ahead. The massive Draken towered over Owen, his scales gleaming with power. Your joke has gone on long enough, human. The creature was meant to break you, to prove your compassion has limits. Instead, you mock me with this performance. Performance? Owen kept his voice level. That dragon in my barn has endured 6 surgeries, months of physical therapy, and more pain than you can imagine, all while learning to trust again after years of torture. If that's a performance, it's the most dedicated one I've ever seen. Show me. Drameth's eyes narrowed. I will see this miracle for myself. And if I find you have used tricks or drugs to make her appear healthy, I will destroy her myself. And you with her. Owen led them to the barn, his heart hammering but his face calm. He had known this confrontation would come eventually. Might as well be today. Behind them, Ambassador Yenna followed, her expression unreadable. Sorrow was in the exercise area, practicing wing extensions under Rachel's supervision. She saw Drameth and froze. Every muscle in her body went rigid. Owen could see terror flooding back into her. He moved between them immediately. Easy, Sorrow. You're safe. He can't touch you here. Drameth laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. Safe? From me? The human thinks he can protect a worthless dragon from a king. On Earth, that's exactly what I can do. You have no authority here. Owen kept his position. You want to see her progress? Fine, but you do it on my terms. No weapons. No wodias. Just you. Take it or leave. The warriors moved forward, but Drameth raised a hand. Interesting. The little human has teeth. He unsealed his weapons and handed them to his guards. Very well. Show me what you have accomplished with this broken toy. Owen turned to Sorrow. She was trembling, her wings pulled tight against her body. It's okay. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. We can stop this right now if you need. Sorrow stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Drameth, the king who had let his warriors break her, who had given her to Owen expecting her to die, who represented everything that had hurt her. She pressed her tablet. No. Will. Show. Him. Pride swelled in Owen's chest. That's my girl. Sorrow moved to the center of the exercise area. Her movements were still careful, still healing, but they were strong. She extended her left wing fully. The membrane caught the light, healthy and whole. Then the right wing, nearly as complete. 6 months ago, those wings had been twisted ruins. Now they caught air properly, creating lift. She walked the length of the barn, each step sure and balanced. She climbed the ramp to the elevated platform, muscles working smoothly. At the top, she spread both wings and jumped, gliding 20 feet before landing perfectly on the padded floor. Not true flight yet, but gliding. Controlled descent. The beginning of what she had been born to do. Drameth watched in silence. His expression shifted from mockery to confusion to something else. Something that might have been anger mixed with fear. This proves nothing, he finally said. You have made her body work better. So what? She is still weak. Still useless. What purpose does she serve? Come with me. Owen said. He led Drameth to the hospital wing where young patients were waiting. The children knew Sorrow was having an important visitor today. They had prepared questions and drawings. When Sorrow entered, they surrounded her with excited voices, completely ignoring the massive alien king in the doorway that a girl with a prosthetic leg showed Sorrow her new brace. Look, the doctors made it better, just like they fixed your wings. A boy recovering from surgery asked Sorrow to sign his cast. "You're my hero. My mom says if you can get better, I can too." Sorrow moved among them with gentle care, listening to their stories, offering comfort with her presence. She had been working with these children for 2 months now, part of a program Owen had developed. The kids called her their guardian dragon. The medical staff called her a miracle. "She gives them hope," Rachel explained to Drameth. Children who are afraid of their own recoveries see Sorrow's progress and find courage. Kids who feel alone because they're different find someone who understands. She's helped dozens of patients push through difficult therapies because they want to be strong like she is. Drameth watched a little boy with burns across his face lean against Sorrow's side. "The fire hurts so bad," the boy whispered. "Does it still hurt you?" Sorrow pressed her tablet. "Sometimes, but less. Every day. You, too, will heal. You promise?" "Promise." The boy smiled for the first time since his accident. His mother, watching from across the room, had tears streaming down her face. "This is her purpose," Owen said quietly. "Not fighting, not conquest, not proving strength through violence. She heals by being healed. She gives hope by receiving it first. That's worth more than any empire. Sentiment. Weakness." But Drameth's voice lacked its earlier certainty. "Is it?" Owen gestured to the children. "These kids will grow up. Some will become doctors, engineers, leaders. They'll remember the dragon who showed them that being hurt doesn't mean being broken, that needing help doesn't mean being worthless. They'll carry that lesson their whole lives. How many of your warriors can say they've changed minds and hearts like that?" Drameth was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Ambassador Yenna. "The human has one lunar cycle. If he can prove this creature has genuine value, not just emotional manipulation, I will reconsider her status. If not, she returns to the Empire for proper disposal." "Value by whose measurement?" Owen demanded. "Mine." Drameth moved toward the door, his warriors falling in around him. "You claim she has purpose. Prove it. Show me something beyond making soft creatures feel better about their own weakness. Show me real worth. Or admit that some lies are indeed meant to end." After the dragon left, Owen found Sorrow standing in the exercise area, staring at her reflection in the window. He sat beside her. "1 month isn't much time." Sorrow pressed her tablet. "What is real value to him?" "I don't know. Power, probably. Strength. Things that can be measured and quantified." Owen sighed. He doesn't understand that what you do can't be weighed on a scale or counted in credits. "Then we show him different way to measure." Over the next week, messages flooded in from around the galaxy. The confrontation had been broadcast live. Most of the responses were predictable. Some species mocked Owen's emotional appeal. Others debated the philosophy of purpose and value. But a few messages stood out. A group of young Draken sent a secret transmission, asking for more information about Sorrow's work. A physician from a distant world requested details about therapy animal programs. Most surprising, 3 different governments asked Earth for consultation on treating their own disabled populations. The change Owen had hoped for was beginning. But would it be enough to convince Drameth? Would anything be enough? Sorrow continued her work with the hospital patients, but Owen could see the stress building in her. The deadline hung over everything. Drameth's warriors had taken up position near the clinic, watching, waiting, ready to take her back to the Empire if Owen failed to prove her worth. "We'll figure this out," Owen told her one night. "I won't let him take you." Sorrow pressed her tablet slowly. "If must go back to save human friends. Worth it." "No." Owen's voice was firm. "That's not how this works. You're not a bargaining chip. You're a person with rights, with dignity, with a life that matters. And I'll fight for that until my last breath." Sorrow looked at him for a long moment. Then she pressed one word. "Family." Owen felt his throat tighten. "Yeah, family." Outside, the stars turned above Earth's sky. 1 month to prove the worth of a life. 1 month to change a king's mind. 1 month to show the galaxy that value couldn't always be measured in traditional ways. The clock was ticking 2 weeks into Dramatha's deadline. Owen received an emergency call from the regional hospital. A bus carrying special needs children had crashed on a mountain road. Multiple casualties. The rescue teams were struggling with the terrain, and several children were trapped in vehicles hanging over a cliff edge. The situation was deteriorating fast. Owen was preparing to volunteer his medical expertise when he looked at Sorrow. She was watching the news coverage on the barn's display screen, her whole body tense with focus. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Sorrow pressed her tablet quickly. "Can help. Children. Trapped. High. Places. Your wings aren't strong enough for sustained flight yet. It's too dangerous. Gliding. Good. Enough. Can reach. Places. Helicopters. Cannot. Too. Close. Too. Cliff." Owen's mind raced through the possibilities. She was right. The news showed helicopters being pushed back by dangerous wind currents near the cliff face. But a glider, something that could work with the wind instead of fighting it, something smaller and more maneuverable. Even if you could reach them, you've never done rescue work. You don't have training for this. Sorrow met his eyes with her one good eye. Have. Training. In. Suffering. No. How. Fear. Feels. Can comfort. While. Others. Work. She was right again. And Owen realized this might be exactly what they needed. Not to prove Sorrow's worth to Dramath, but to show the galaxy what she had truly become. He grabbed his gear. "Rachel, prep Sorrow's flight harness. The reinforced one. And give me everything we have on emergency gliding procedures." Within the hour, they arrived at the crash site. Emergency coordinators were grateful for any help, though several looked skeptical when they saw Sorrow. A dragon with obvious wing damage didn't inspire confidence. But the alternative was watching children die while waiting for equipment that might not arrive in time. The situation was worse than the news had shown. 3 children were trapped in a van hanging half over the cliff edge. The rescue teams couldn't reach them without risking the vehicle's balance. One wrong move, and it would tumble into the ravine below. Owen studied the wind patterns. Sorrow can glide down from above, land on that ledge 10 feet below the van. From there, she can stabilize the kids emotionally while your team sets up the proper rigging. That ledge is barely 2 feet wide, the rescue coordinator protested, and the wind currents are unpredictable. She's been practicing precision landings for months. She can do this. Sorrow was already preparing, checking her harness, testing her wings. Owen helped her into the emergency medical pack they had modified to fit her. It contained supplies and a communication link. "You don't have to do this," Owen told her quietly. "We can find another way." Sorrow pressed her tablet. "Yes. Have. To. This. Is. Real. Purpose. Not. Just. Comfort. But. Action." They climbed to the ridge above the crash site. Below, news drones captured everything. Owen knew the galaxy was watching. Knew Dramath was watching. This would either prove Sorrow's worth or become evidence of her limitations. Sorrow stood at the edge, feeling the wind. Her wings spread carefully, catching the currents. Owen saw doubt flicker across her face. She had never glided in conditions like this. Never had lives depending on her. "Remember your training," Owen said. "Trust your wings. Trust yourself." She looked at him once more, then stepped off the edge. For a terrifying moment, she dropped. Her wings hadn't caught the wind properly. But then she adjusted, angling her body, and suddenly she was gliding. Not smoothly, not perfectly, but controlled. She worked with the wind currents, using the techniques Rachel had taught her, compensating for her still healing right wing. She passed the van, caught an updraft, circled back. The landing was rough, but successful. Her claws found purchase on the narrow ledge. She folded her wings carefully and peered into the van's shattered back window. 3 faces stared back at her. Young children, 2 girls and a boy, all showing signs of injury. They were terrified, crying, certain they were going to die. Sorrow's communication device activated. "Hello. I am. Sorrow. I am. Here. To. Help." The youngest girl, maybe 6 years old, sobbed harder. "Are you going to eat us?" "No. I am. Guardian. Dragon. Not. Scary. Dragon. Promise." The boy, older than the others, pointed at her scarred scales. What happened to you? Was hurt. Like you. But got better. You will, too. Over the next 40 minutes, Sorrow stayed with the children while rescue teams worked above. She told them stories through her tablet, showing them pictures of other children she had helped. She demonstrated her exercises, making them laugh when she carefully stretched her wings in the tiny space. Most importantly, she kept them calm. The youngest girl stopped crying and asked questions instead. What was it like being a dragon? Did her wings hurt? How did she learn to fly? Still learning every day, just like you learn at school. Never stop getting better. The oldest boy recognized her from news broadcasts. You're the dragon the mean king gave to the doctor. Everyone said you die. Did not. Found purpose. Instead, helping others. Like helping you. When the rescue harnesses finally lowered, the children were stable enough to cooperate. One by one, they were lifted to safety. Sorrow remained on the ledge until all three were secure, then carefully glided back to the top of the ridge. Owen caught her as she landed, checking her over for injuries. You did it. I knew you could. Emergency medical personnel swarmed the children, treating injuries and checking vitals. All three would make full recoveries thanks to the speed of the rescue. The youngest girl broke free from her doctor and ran back to Sorrow. Thank you for saving us. Sorrow pressed her tablet with a claw that shook from exhaustion. Was honor to help. The girl hugged Sorrow's leg, then was gently led away to the ambulance. Later that evening, footage of the rescue played on every major network across the galaxy. Not just the gliding and the successful rescue, but Sorrow's interaction with the trapped children. Her patience, her compassion, her willingness to risk her still healing body to save strangers. Messages flooded in by the thousands. Medical facilities requesting information about therapy animal programs. Governments asking about emergency response training for non-traditional rescuers. And most surprisingly, coded transmissions from young Draken questioning why their own kind were destroyed at birth when this broken dragon had saved lives. Owen sat with Sorrow in the barn that night. She was exhausted, her wings sore from the strain, but there was light in her eye that hadn't been there before. You found it, Owen said. Not just purpose, but proof of that purpose. You saved 3 lives today. More than 3. Sorrow pressed her tablet slowly. Showed galaxy that broken things can still be heroes. That survival is not just about strength. Ambassador Yenna arrived unannounced the next morning. She looked different, less rigid in her formal bearing. She approached Sorrow directly. I watched the rescue. Multiple times. Yenna touched her own chest, a Draken gesture of respect. I have been in service to the Empire for 30 years. I have seen countless demonstrations of strength and power. Warriors who could destroy cities. Weapons that could crack planets. But I have never seen courage like yours. To risk yourself for strangers when you're still healing, when you've already suffered so much. She paused. It has made me question everything I thought I knew about worth and value. Will Drameth understand? Sorrow pressed. I do not know, but I will make my report honestly. What you did was not weakness or sentiment. It was the highest form of strength. And if the High King cannot see that, then perhaps he is the one who is truly blind. After Yenna left, Owen received a message from the rescue coordinator. The families of the 3 children wanted to meet Sorrow to thank her properly. A ceremony was being planned. Awards were being discussed. But more importantly, 12 other hospitals had requested to start their own therapy programs. 8 emergency services had inquired about training protocols for non-traditional rescuers. And the Galactic Medical Council had formally recognized a new category of service: guardian animals. Sorrow had started something that would echo across worlds. Not through grand speeches or political maneuvering, but through simple action. She had seen suffering and moved to ease it. She had seen danger and moved to face it. She had taken her own broken history and transformed it into a foundation for helping others. 2 weeks remained until Dramatha's deadline. But Owen realized something important. It didn't matter what the High King decided anymore. Sorrow had already proven her worth to the ones who mattered. The children she comforted, the patience she inspired, the lives she saved. That was real value, undeniable and unmeasurable by any traditional standard. The galaxy was watching, and slowly, reluctantly, it was beginning to learn. High King Dramath returned on the final day of his deadline. This time, no weapons accompanied him. No warriors formed ranks behind him. He came alone except for Ambassador Yenna, and something about his bearings suggested this visit was different. Owen met him in the yard again, but Sorrow stood beside him this time. Not hiding, not trembling, just present. The lunar cycle has ended, Dramath said. I have come for my judgment. Before you speak, Ambassador Yenna interrupted, something unheard of in the king's presence. I must present evidence to the High Council. She activated a holographic display. These are reports from 17 worlds. Medical facilities requesting Earth's assistance in establishing therapy programs. Emergency services adapting techniques demonstrated by Sorrow. Educational institutions teaching new approaches to disability and rehabilitation. More images appeared. Children from a dozen species working with therapy animals. Rescue teams training for difficult terrain. Hospital patients showing improved recovery rates with animal-assisted therapy. Furthermore, Yenna continued, I have received 43 coded transmissions from young Draken within the Empire. They are organizing, questioning, demanding changes to our practices regarding the disabled and weak. Your joke, High King, has sparked a revolution among our own youth. Dramatha's expression was unreadable. Show me the children from the rescue. Yenna brought up the footage. The 3 kids who had been trapped in the van were being interviewed at their school. They talked about Sorrow with reverence and love, about how her presence had kept them from panicking, how her story gave them courage during their own recoveries. The youngest girl held up a drawing she had made, a dragon with scarred scales and uneven wings, labeled in careful letters, My Hero Sorrow. These children have shared their experience across their world, Yenna said. Their story has inspired thousands. Rescue protocols are being rewritten. First responder training now includes psychological stabilization techniques observed from Sorrow's methods. 3 lives saved have created changes that will save countless more. Dramath was silent for a long time. He looked at Sorrow, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time. Not as a broken thing or a tool for humiliation, but as an individual who had accomplished something he did not understand. What do you have to say, Dragon? His voice had lost its mockery. Sorrow pressed her tablet carefully. Once was worthless. Now, no, different. Worth, not in strength of body, but in strength of heart, in ability to ease suffering, to bring hope, to show others that survival is possible. Sentiment, Dramath said, but the word lacked conviction. No, Owen stepped forward. Results. Measurable, quantifiable results. Improved patient outcomes. Faster recovery times. Reduced therapy dropout rates. Lives saved that would have been lost. That's not sentiment. That's value by any standard, even yours. The Draken Empire measures strength in battle, in conquest, in dominance. And look what that's gotten you. Owen gestured to the holographic display, showing young Draken protesting traditional practices. Your own people are rejecting those values. They're seeing a better way. A dragon you called worthless has accomplished what your mightiest warriors never could. She has changed hearts and minds across the galaxy. Dramath turned to Yenna. You support this assessment? I do. More than that. High King, I believe we have been wrong. Strength is valuable, yes. But compassion, mercy, the ability to heal rather than destroy, these things have their own power. Power we have been too blind to recognize. She straightened. If you choose to execute Sorrow for proving her worth in ways we failed to measure, Then I will formally resign my position and request asylum on Earth. I will not serve an empire that destroys what it cannot understand. The threat hung in the air. Yenna was highly respected from a powerful family. Her defection would be a significant blow. Drameth looked between them all, his expression cycling through anger, confusion, and something that might have been grudging respect. Finally, he focused on sorrow. You have proven you are not worthless. I acknowledge this. The words seemed to pain him. But you have also created chaos in my empire. Young Draken refuse their duties. They speak of mercy and compassion as if these are virtues equal to strength. They question traditions older than your species' written history. Good, Sorrow pressed. Question. Everything. Find. Better. Ways. That is how species grow. You would lecture a king. Would. Dictu. Anyone who thinks suffering is acceptable when it can be prevented. For a moment, Owen thought Drameth would explode with rage. Instead, the High King did something unexpected. He laughed, not the cruel laughter from their first meeting, but something genuine. You have the spirit of a warrior after all, hidden under that broken body. He looked at Owen. The dragon may remain on Earth, under one condition. Name it. She will serve as an ambassador, not for Earth, but for a new initiative. The Draken Empire will, under protest and great reservation, begin exploring alternative approaches to our disabled population. Sorrow will consult on these programs. She will teach us what she has learned. And perhaps, though I say this with great reluctance, she will help us become less. He struggled with the word. Less cruel. Owen looked at Sorrow. It's your choice. You don't owe them anything. Sorrow pressed her tablet slowly. Will. Help. Not. For. Them. For. Young. Dragons. Like. Me. Who. Deserve. Chance. To. Live. To. Find. Purpose. To. Be. More. Than. Victims. Then we have an agreement. Drameth made a formal gesture of respect. I came here to mock human weakness. Instead, I find that weakness and strength are more complex than I believed. You have taught the galaxy an uncomfortable lesson, Dr. Fletcher. Perhaps that was necessary. He turned to leave, then paused. Ambassador Yenna will remain on Earth as liaison for this new program. She has clearly learned more from you than from me. There was no bitterness in his voice, just acceptance. After the High King's ship departed, Owen sat with Sorrow in their barn. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors Sorrow had never seen before coming to Earth. You did it, Owen said. You changed his mind, started changing an entire empire. We did it, Sorrow pressed. You showed me I was worth saving. I showed others. Same thing. Together. Made difference. Over the following weeks, Draken representatives visited Earth. Some were skeptical, some were hostile, but others, particularly the younger ones, were eager to learn. They watched Sorrow work with patients. They studied rehabilitation techniques. They asked questions about compassion and mercy that their culture had never encouraged them to explore. The first Draken therapy program was established on their homeworld. The first disabled dragon was allowed to live and given proper medical care. It was just a beginning, but it was real change. News spread to other species. The warlike Draken were softening their approach to the weak. If they could change, anyone could. Programs for the disabled expanded across the galaxy. Medical practices improved. Ancient prejudices began to crack. Sorrow became something unprecedented. A dragon who flew between worlds, not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. Her scarred scales and imperfect wings became symbols of survival and hope. Children from 100 species knew her story. Adults reconsidered their assumptions about worth and value. 1 year after Drameth's cruel joke, Owen stood in the barn watching Sorrow practice full flight. Her wings had healed enough for sustained movement. She would never be the fastest or most graceful flyer, but she could soar. And that was enough. She landed beside him, pressing her tablet. New request from Draken Youth Academy. want me to speak about finding purpose after trauma. Will you go? Yes. Must. Keep teaching. Keep showing. Different way. Owen smiled. I'm proud of you. You know that, right? Sorrow made her clicking approximation of laughter. Proud of you, too. You saw worth when no one else did. That is real strength. That evening, local children arrived for their weekly visit with Sorrow. They brought drawings and stories, questions and concerns. She listened to each one, offering comfort and wisdom earned through her own suffering. A boy with a new prosthetic leg showed her how he could run now. A girl recovering from surgery talked about being scared. Fear is normal, Sorrow pressed. But fear does not mean you cannot succeed. I was terrified every day at first, but with help, with time, with purpose, fear becomes smaller. After they left, Owen found Sorrow staring at the stars. What are you thinking about? Hi, King Dramath wanted to, but all the humans would fail, would give up on broken dragon. Instead, proved something else. Proved that when humans adopt something, when they decide to care, nothing stops them. Not even kings. That's what humans do best, Owen said. We take in strays. We fix what's broken. We protect what needs protecting. It's in our nature. Is best. Nature. Sorrow pressed. Galaxy. Learning. From it. Far away on the Draken homeworld, young dragons who would have been killed at birth were being given chances to live. Medical facilities across the galaxy were adopting techniques inspired by Sorrow's recovery. Children from dozen species were learning that being different or damaged did not mean being worthless, all because one human veterinarian had refused to give up on a broken dragon. All because that dragon had found the strength to hope again. Together, they had shown the galaxy a simple truth that most species had forgotten. Every life has worth. Every being deserves compassion. And sometimes the weakest among us become the strongest teachers. That Dramath's cruel joke had backfired in ways he never imagined. He had tried to prove humans would fail when tested. Instead, he had given them an opportunity to demonstrate their greatest strength. Not military might or technological advancement, but an unlimited capacity for compassion and in stubborn refusal to abandon those in need. Sorrow spread her wings one more time, feeling the evening wind. She was no longer the terrified creature dragged before a throne. She was a guardian, a teacher, an ambassador, a survivor. She was proof that the galaxy could be better than it had been, and she was home.